to another episode of UEN TV's Local Lens, where we shine a spotlight on the people, places, and stories shaping Utah. Today's episode is bursting with creativity, from the role of arts in education to kicking off Utah's journey toward America 250. Let's dive in and explore Utah through a new lens. STEM and the arts might seem like separate worlds, but at Gearld Wright Elementary in West Valley City, they're coming together in new ways. As a platinum STEM school, Gearld Wright is seeing a transformation in students through the collaboration of science and the arts.
Becoming a platinum STEM school has changed the culture in our school, not only for students, but for teachers.
Our teachers have learned to integrate the arts and STEM together through our professional learning communities, or our PLC process. We've really focused on bringing in more STEM activities, and now we have upper grades teaching lower grades, and even lower grades teaching upper grades different activities and different opportunities to collaborate with each other, vertically aligning rather than just focusing on our specific grade levels.
In this platinum STEM school, I'm very aware of the fact that these guys are problem solvers and they need to be able to problem solve.
So learning that we make mistakes and that mistakes are going to happen and we've got to keep going with it. So the very first word I teach them, the first slide that goes up is the word tinker. And so we talked about, like, today you're just going to tinker with this. And what does tinker mean? Let's push some buttons. I don't tell them what the buttons mean, and so they just kind of play around with it and get to learn, and then we problem solve through that.
My classroom's more about application than about the theory behind things. I try and apply the concepts that their teachers are teaching in their classrooms in my classroom so they can see it in a real world application.
As I've taught and gotten to know the objectives within science, within math, sometimes ELA, I'm able to incorporate it in a more meaningful way too, even to the point where I can grade these things now. Before it was like, okay, here's a nice art project, we can tie it to science, it was fun, it was great. But now it's like, here's an art project we're doing, and we're using the objective, I am making a model in certain contexts. We have made STEM a priority out of our week, and so every Monday, regardless of what else is going on, we teach STEM. As a 5th grade team, I teach the visual art portion. Mrs. Gifford, she teaches the coding, robots, tech portion, and then Miss Cressy, she teaches singing and kind of like the notes and all of that, music. And so we have been able to prioritize it, and I feel like some other schools might not allow a team to say, hey, you're gonna take an hour out of your week where you're just teaching STEM.
They express themselves in ways that they wouldn't have before. So like last year, I noticed that the kids were very closed in on themselves and they didn't want to try anything that would put them out there. This year, I've noticed that kids are putting themselves out there. They're trying new things.
I think it benefits all students. There are some students who never speak up in the classroom, no matter how hard or comfortable you have them. And then as soon as they're able to produce something with art and using STEM, it's like they just highlight and shine.
As long as you have that love of learning, I believe every child can do it. And so that's why it's such a big part of my classroom, is because I want my students to feel empowered and I want them to feel like learning is just the way to go.
What does playing the oboe have to do with STEM? For Zac Hammond of the Utah Symphony, STEM skills are intertwined with his daily routine, allowing him to play, maintain, and create the most incredible sounds from his instrument.
My name is Zac Hammond, and I play oboe with the Utah Symphony. I've been playing the oboe now for probably 16 years, and I mainly play orchestrally, so with big symphony orchestras. So like any musician, I have to practice a lot and make sure I know my music and my chops are working. But the kind of added component of playing the oboe is making the reeds. So the oboe is a double reed instrument, and I actually make those reeds myself, which is a very labor-intensive, time-intensive process that involves a lot of measuring, a lot of sorting cane or bamboo, which is the material you use to make the reeds, and then a ton of time sort of troubleshooting, hey, why does this reed work? Why does this reed not work? I always joke that I don't think a perfect reed exists. And that has taken years of sort of trial and error of performing and practicing and just trying to figure out, okay, what kind of oboe reed will give me the exact type of sound that I want for this composer. You know, I'll need a different reed to play Stravinsky than I will to play Mozart. Making a reed usually is a process that takes multiple days, and I do it in batches. The idea is you have an assembly line going all the time, so that at any given moment you at least have one decent sounding reed. I do a lot of measuring of very thin pieces of cane in order to make the reed. You have to figure out the ratio of the sides of the piece of cane to the center. That can affect all these things in your tuning and your sound. Just thinking about variables, there are so many little steps in the process of reed making that you can adjust or change. And I have caught myself many times changing too many of them at once. And then you don't really know why you got the result that you got. So a thing I recommend to students very often is if you're going to change a variable, you change one variable, and you see your results, and then you go back. And part of the, honestly, joy of playing it is figuring out how to navigate those problems. I never get bored of playing this instrument, partially because there's always something new to figure out. You can always play something 5% better, 5% more in tune, louder, softer, whatever. And all of that comes with experience, and I'm still working on it. But what I have found is that math and science and engineering has infiltrated every part of what I do, and I love it. I never thought I would say that. I think my personality is built to this instrument that involves a lot of micro engineering, whittling to get these reeds to work. And I would just say to stay curious about what you're doing, to make sure you enjoy the process, try to keep problem solving, and just stay as curious as you can about what you're learning.
On July 1st, 2025, Governor Spencer J. Cox and Lieutenant Governor Deidre M. Henderson invited every Utahn to join a year of celebration to mark the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country. With a patriotic program introduced by presenter Marie Osmond, helped celebrate what brings us together.
Today, July 1st, 2025, launches our state's year of celebration and service to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the founding of our nation. The people and events of the Revolutionary era of 1776 profoundly changed the world. This moment calls upon us to renew our engagement with the ideals expressed in the Declaration of Independence. We invite all Utahns to participate in our signature programs designed to educate, engage, and unify us as Americans. Here are some of those programs. 500 for Our Future presents civics education for K-12 teachers and parents. This investment will help students for years to come as they define their more perfect union. The Pen is Mightier, Writing a Revolution, explores the influences that led to the Declaration of Independence. It will tour the state's 29 counties beginning this fall and be showcased at the Utah State Capitol in 2026. Walk 250 Utah challenges Utahns to follow in the footsteps of the groundbreaking 1776 Dominguez Escalante expedition by walking or moving 250 miles during Utah's commemorative year. Serving a Common Cause invites residents across the state to participate and share the value of their volunteer experiences, recognizing Utah's national leadership in our commitment to community service. The Explore the Declaration of Independence at 250 Speakers Series will showcase America's world-changing ideals of liberty and freedom in partnership with Utah's universities and colleges and PBS Utah. And America's Potluck is leading a nationwide campaign for neighborhoods to host community gatherings on Sunday, July 5th, 2026, inviting people from all walks of life to break bread together. Today, we join together to honor resiliency, collaboration, and hope, values that unite us as Americans. Today, we've seen young people who will be around to celebrate the 300th anniversary join in this year-long anniversary. May youth from every corner of our state see themselves in our country's future and our state's unique contributions to the world. We invite all Utahns to find a way to connect with the promise of our country through America 250 Utah's signature programs and through events hosted in your community, your city, or your county. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Henderson.
Under the baton of legendary conductor Maurice Abravanel, the Utah Symphony became the first American orchestra to record the complete symphonies of which famous Austrian composer? The answer is Gustav Mahler.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Henderson and Gabe. Thank you to our incredible youth who are performing today, and singing and sharing those sacred words with us. Thank you to everybody who has participated so far today, especially the 250th committee who is putting this all together. Donna Law and her team who have sacrificed so much to make this happen. This is going to be an incredible year. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time, 50 years in fact. It was 50 years ago this year that I was born. And more importantly though, because next year's the anniversary, something very special happened that year. Not just the 200th celebration, the sesquicentennial that many of you, well some of you will remember judging by your hair color or lack of it. But my wife was born 50 years ago next year, named Abigail after Abigail Adams. She is a bicentennial baby, and we're very proud to have her celebrating her 50th next year. Now, I said sesquicentennial, I meant bicentennial. Here we are today, celebrating some words on paper, and not that many words, but they were profound words because they represented an idea that was fairly new, an idea that meant a new experiment, an experiment in self-governance. This concept that we have rights, that rights do not come from government, that rights come from somewhere else. Where do they come from? Well, they came from our Creator, the Supreme Creator. They came from on high. And every human being is endowed from their Creator with those certain unalienable rights. And government exists, as you heard those words so eloquently spoken today, to protect those rights that are already ours by the consent of the governed. And among those rights are life, that's the easy one, liberty, that's the fun one, and the pursuit of happiness, which is the one that we've gotten wrong for a long, long time. And I'll speak about that in just a second. But these ideas put on paper inspired a movement, a group of colonies, a small group of people about the size of the state of Utah, a little over 3 million people, when they selected then General Washington to lead them against the largest and most powerful superpower on earth, with this crazy idea that God would bless them in their efforts to secure again those rights. And that's exactly what they did. They won, and more inspired words were put on paper, a constitution, a very simple constitution, eventually with a few amendments that were really important to protect our rights. And again, the world began to change as this idea of self-government spread across the globe. Many of those who wrote those words and who voted for those words weren't sure it would last. Some of them guessed that at most 100 years. Most of them never expected that 250 years later, we would be gathering, celebrating those documents and that experiment in self-government. By the end of their lives, many of the founders were pretty sure that the experiment was failing. Alexander Hamilton, because we didn't have a stronger federal government. Well, we certainly fixed that and probably went a little too far the other way as we're trying to push back now. Thomas Jefferson was worried that it had failed because of what was happening with regionalism, and especially with slavery, knowing that it was going to pull the republic apart. And he was right. It almost did destroy the republic. We had to have a war to solve that one and to banish slavery forever from this free nation. We had others. George Washington was worried that the experiment was failing because of the rise of factionalism and parties that would tear our country apart. He may have been prophetic in that as we see what is happening in our country today, as political tribalism is destroying us and tearing us apart, as we see tragically assassinations attempting and now succeeding in our country because of those factions that George Washington warned us against. But it was John Adams who I believe had the most valid concern of all, because he, along with the other founders, knew that if we didn't have a society who understood what the pursuit of happiness actually meant, that we wouldn't be able to survive as a country. You see, the pursuit of happiness was never about feeling good, as it is now believed to be today. Happiness is whatever my truth is, or whatever makes me feel good. The pursuit of happiness had a very distinct meaning then, coming from the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, the Stoics at the time, who knew that the pursuit of happiness meant the pursuit of individual improvement and self-excellence, that we would be striving every day to make ourselves better human beings, better citizens of this country. And in that was something special. Again, I said freedom is the fun one. The pursuit of happiness meant responsibility. You don't just get to do what feels good or makes you happy. You actually have to do what is better for your neighborhood, for your community, for your country. The pursuit of happiness was about sacrifice. It was about giving up your personal pleasure to make sure that we lived in a better place. And you see, they also knew that that Constitution was not perfect, that this American experiment was not perfect, but that we were trying to build a more perfect union over time, that we would get it wrong, that we would figure it out, and that we would fix it over time. You see, and if you'll permit me a moment of personal privilege, and I've shared this before, but I know only a few of our legislators were paying attention in the state of the state a couple years ago, so I'm going to share this story again. 70 years after those words were written on paper, and after a revolution, and after a constitution, and after a Bill of Rights that secured our freedoms, my great-great-great-grandparents, Orville Sutherland Cox and his wife Elvira, were in a town in Illinois called Yellowrong. And they were trying to practice their religion, guaranteed the protection of the United States government, the First Amendment to our Constitution. And a mob showed up and burned their house to the ground. And the United States did not protect them. The United States, this amazing country that we are celebrating today, 70 years later, it failed them. And so they put what little belongings they had from their house in a wagon, and they left that country to find a place where they could worship according to the dictates of their hearts. And where did they come? Well, they came here, to this place, to this valley that we overlook today. My great-great-great-grandfather was an iron worker and a woodworker. When they arrived in the valley, that first group of people, he was given a responsibility. His first responsibility was to go up into those mountains, to cut down the largest pine tree he could find, to work that tree, bring it down, and plant it in the middle of the public square. For what? To raise the flag of the United States of America, the country that had failed them. But you see, here's the thing. That's not how he saw it. While the Union wasn't perfect yet, he and all those other settlers that came here still believed in the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, believed in the ideal of self-governance. believed that they could make a more perfect union. And so they didn't denigrate the United States of America. They didn't tear it down. They built it up and they built it better. And here we are today. We are the legacy of all of those people who have come before us, those who put on the uniforms of our country, who went and fought wars, domestic and abroad, to save this union. We are here 250 years later because they believed. They never gave up hope, and we believe today. Are there problems? Are there flaws in our country today? Sure. Too many to name, probably. But I still believe in us. And I know you believe in us, and that's why you're here today. And I believe that we need a new era of patriotism, a patriotism that is like the old era of patriotism, something that we have forgotten, something that we need to teach our children, intentionally pass on to our kids and grandkids, that freedom is built here, that responsibility is built here, that we must be better human beings, that there is nothing more un-American than hating our fellow Americans, that unity does not mean agreement, it means working together. It means believing in the institutions that those founders created 250 years ago that are still alive today by the grace of God. And it is incumbent on every Utahn to show the rest of the country what patriotism really means. And I believe that we are perhaps the last best hope of a nation to show a nation what that is, because here we still volunteer. Because here we still give back, because here we still care about our neighborhoods, because here we know we can disagree without hating each other, that we can fight for what we believe in. That is who we are as Utahns. That is who we are as Americans. That's who we were 250 years ago, and that's who we can still be today. So to all of you that are listening, we get a year starting July 4th till next year to celebrate what made this country so unique, so special. We get a year to remember again who we are and why we are. And if we do that together, we here in Utah, 3.5 million people, just like in the days of George Washington, can once again change the course of history. We can get us back on course. And we can make sure that 250 years from now, another group just like us will be assembled here today, celebrating 500 years of the greatest nation in the history of the world. May God bless you. May God bless the great state of Utah. And may God continue to bless these United States of America. Thank you.
That wraps up today's episode of Local Lens. We hope you enjoyed discovering the creative spirit and community that make Utah so special. There's more to explore, so don't forget to tune in tomorrow for our feature-length episode of Local Lens. Until next time, keep looking at Utah through a local lens.